It's Davos week. Our betters jet off to Switzerland for the World Economic Forum, where Klaus Schwab and his buddies get together and tell everybody to eat bugs and you will own nothing and you'll be happy. I know that Bond villain, actually he's not really a Bond villain, more like a villain from an Austin Powers movie. Klaus Schwab, I know he's not the head of it, but he's forever in our hearts because he embodies most of what you get from those dilettantes, the expert class that jets off to Davos. Fortunately, there are some wet blankets that are attending these days. Last year, it was Argentinian President Javier Milei, who, I mean, that ripped them apart for their command control follies. Beautiful. So far this week, surprisingly, a gentleman who went on a pretty good riff telling the New World Order types what the New World Order is before Trump got to town, and that's his Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnik. Your policies failed. Here's what we're doing. You should follow suit. Take a listen.
Well, I think you should start at a much higher level. Okay? We are in Davos at the World Economic Forum. And the Trump administration and myself, we are here to make a very clear point. Globalization has failed the West and the United States of America. It's a failed policy. It is what the WEF has stood for, which is export, offshore, far shore, find the cheapest labor in the world, and the world is a better place for it. The fact is, it has left America behind. It has left the American workers behind. And what we are here to say is that America First is a different model, one that we encourage other countries to consider, which is that our workers come first. We can have policies that impact our workers. Sovereignty is your borders. You're entitled to have borders. You shouldn't offshore your medicine. You shouldn't offshore your semiconductors. You shouldn't offshore your entire industrial base and have it be hollowed out beneath you. You should not be dependent for that which is fundamental to your sovereignty on any other nation. And if you're going to be dependent on someone, it darn well better be your best allies. Okay? And so that is a different way of thinking. It is completely different than the WEF. I viewed the WEF as not a flagpole in the middle, but in fact, they are the flag. Whichever way the wind blew, so it blew. You should have solar. You should have wind. Why are you going to do solar and wind? Why would Europe agree to be net zero in 2030 when they don't make a battery? They don't make a battery. So if they go 2030, they are deciding to be subservient to China, who makes the batteries.
Boy, it's going to be a tough week for those one world government folks. For more on this topic and others, please be joined by former United States Senator, now Indiana Governor Mike Braun. Governor Braun, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it. Do we have Governor Braun?
Sure.
Oh, there we go. Governor, thank you for being with us. Appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure.
Well, I thought that Lutnik riff would be of particular interest in our discussion because you sort of came in to the United States Senate from that perspective of America First and coming from a successful business background too. So you had some practical experience to apply to the philosophy. And I just wanted to get your reaction to what Lutnik had to say and how you think America First is faring.
Well, it came from Main Street, and then not the world dynamic that was being talked about in terms of Lutnik. And it's a different place. It emphasizes small business, entrepreneurs, and the worker. And it doesn't use a global framework of governance that is, taken so much out of this country and put us at the footstool of China, who wants to win the game in the long run, economically, of course, not militarily. And they've been laying out that plan. It should be obvious, and we need to make sure that we don't let it go any further. So when I ran, it was on a platform, even here in Indiana, which is per capita, along with Wisconsin, the two biggest manufacturing states. And we got to make sure mega corporations and big government aren't the dynamic that runs us here, or this idea of globalization, which is even doubling down and worse than letting it take foothold in your own country.
And so, Trump had that extended press availability yesterday, taking questions from the D.C. press corps, sort of in review of year one, came out with a big book of accomplishments. What's your assessment, year one of term two for the president?
I think you can see that whatever he does, it's a litany of the vested interests that still hang around that are represented there in Davos, and we've still got enough of that even in our own party. The other side, obviously, the federal government's their growth business and kind of cathedral wrapped into one, and we accommodated when I was in the Senate. The neocon defense hawks were the ones that would make the deal with every Democrat that's still looking to double down on what Lutnik was talking about, that we need to say there's a new game in town, and you can expect every part of mainstream media to give no credit to what has been amazing in a year. You look at the same legislative template that Biden used to say open borders. It's now like 99.9% sealed. That's for Trump even difficult to say, well, there's 0.1% left. It's an amazing record that I think puts us back on the right course. We can't have main industries offshored. We got to make sure that big government and big business doesn't control the dynamic. And I think it's a tough thing to try to change when it's been entrenched for as long as it was prior to Trump.
Before you joined us, we were talking a little bit about the same topic, but in the context of how you could be experiencing what you think the federal government is doing very differently in Illinois as, say, compared to Indiana or Tennessee or Texas or Florida. And, the need to pay attention to what's happening locally, too. Sort of an opportune moment. So the newly minted governor of Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, former member of Congress, first thing she did was rescind the previous governor, Republican Glenn Youngkin's executive order directing state and local law enforcement to cooperate with ICE. That's the first thing she did, was rescind that. In addition, now that the Democrats also have control of the House of Delegates in Virginia, some of the legislation that's been introduced just since Abigail Spanberger got installed in the last week, a new sales tax, two new higher tax brackets. This is all legislation that's being introduced by that party that's now in control of Virginia. A new millionaire surcharge in the income tax, 3.8% investment tax on top of the state income tax, raise the hotel tax, new personal property tax on landscaping equipment, ban gas-powered leaf blowers, allow people to cast their votes electronically through the internet, extend the deadline for ballot counting to 1 week after Election Day, $500 sales tax on firearm suppressors, 11% sales tax on all firearms and ammunition, a premium for guns and ammo, prohibit outdoor shooting of a firearm on land of less than 5 acres, remove mandatory minimum sentences, replace Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day. Is that similar to what you and Indiana Republicans did when you were installed as governor?
No, I think we did the exact opposite, and through executive orders, I think I did more of them than the last 3 governors put together. It was to, reflect a different way of doing business, even in Indiana, where you might run into some in your own party that are still stuck in that kind of slow gear. Look in Virginia as an example of what I said earlier, growth business. Control things through government. They're faster footed than we are, Dan, at the national level and in states where they're going to have both chambers and the executive branch. they don't mess around. And a lot of times it's beguiling because it gives stuff to people who don't want skin in the game, who are going to take it. And that's the hard thing for those of us that want to wean ourselves off of government and then change kind of the dynamic to boot. So we got to be careful. It sounds euphoric for the people that now think, well, we're going to get something for nothing. You never get it for nothing. You lose your freedom. You have rules and regulations that start to descend upon you, and you start to try to change structurally government, even at the state level. Not happening here. We've reduced regulations. We've pretty well put a state formula in place for economic development. Listen to this. We're growing twice the rate of Illinois' economy and Ohio's, 3 times that of Kentucky's, 6 times that of the liberal bastion that's been running Michigan's economy. So people are moving into our state, the only state in the northern half of the country that's had people voting with their feet coming here to live. And a lot of that was in place before I got here, but our government was getting a little thick and overbearing, and we've been working hard to lean it up and make it easy, not hard, for a state to be conducive to raising a family and starting a business.
Something that looks like it's going to happen in Virginia that didn't happen in Indiana, and that's not good on either score, in my view. Virginia looking to redistrict and possibly eliminate 3 Republican congressmen or Republican-leaning congressional districts. You know, obviously the election will be the election, but that's what they're aiming to do. And there was a push for a redistricting in Indiana that failed because of some obstructionist Republicans in the Senate who had a problem with Trump or wanted to protect their safe little seats or whatever it was, but it failed, and that's a problem, isn't it?
It is, especially because all of those districts were strong Trump supporters, and these individuals would be part of that vestige of, we've got 40 out of 50 Senate seats, so you're going to have at least, there were 10 to 15 that were never Trumpers all along, even though their districts were. So that consequence will flesh out. Our filing deadline is in early February, and I think almost every one of them the voter will have an option.
Good.
Do you want the vestige of the past, or do you want to move into the new lane that tries to put America first and make sure your own states kind of get rid of the vestige of what has been hanging around in some places?
Okay, well, that's good to know. All right, now let's get to the most important issue facing Western civilization. I know. Congratulations on your Hoosiers, but that's just not enough. A national championship, it's just not enough for you. You guys are getting a little greedy there.
Yeah.
What do you think you're doing in trying to? I mean, first playoff win in 15 years, and you're trying to pull Caleb and Ben Johnson over to Northwest Indiana. What's the plan there?
Well, you can see it happened in other places, in New York's teams, and I think there's still the New York Jets and Giants play in the neighboring state, but that seems like you'd be jumping from the frying pan into the fire there. Here, when you let an iconic franchise entity like the Bears, shove them into at the brink of when you've got to get the deal done, looking elsewhere, you can blame that on JD and this now additionally new mayor of Chicago that seems to take the place into a worse governance every time you get a new mayor. Blame it on them. They gave the cold shoulder, and we're going to make sure that we do everything we can to make it easy and to be welcome in a state that is going to save them tons of money over time, property taxes alone. And it'd be like the difference of, well, would you choose to do business with the federal government or California, or would you like to do it in a place that's a lot easier? And one of the benefits of why we've gained net migration into our state is the number of Chicagoans and Illinoisans that have moved into Indiana. And I'll let you put 2 and 2 together there. So we'll see. Don't want to get ahead of our skis. but it's been a long grind where the Bears have tried to work it out where they've always been, and that's how poorly Pritzker and the city of Chicago have handled it.
Would you settle for the Chicago Sky? We keep the Bears. You can have the Sky. Is that potentially? So I mean, like philosophically, where do you come down on sort of public financing or partial financing of stadiums? Because of course that's been a topic of conversation here as well,
sure.
and we've got some past white elephants that are still on the backs of taxpayers, like Comiskey Park, or whatever they call it now. But I mean, are you guys talking about bringing state money or trying to incentivize, or is it just, look, this environment is going to be great for your bottom line, and it's not far from your fan base, and it's easy in, easy out. Maybe we'll make some infrastructure improvements, something sort of akin to what Arlington Heights is doing.
All of that and then some, because I think when they've looked at in just a couple, 3 months of how easy it is to do business with a governor that actually did run a business, signed the front side of a paycheck, not a guy like governor from Illinois that I don't know what he did in terms of his business journey, but it wasn't like
sued
mine.
Sued his parents for money. Yeah.
and then we've got a legislature that's setting the template, so we're way out in front of it, and they've seen that. And I think that when you look at all the benefits, the fan base is still there. It's as close as Arlington Heights, probably less traffic to get down there. It adds even a bigger fan base from a good part of northern Indiana into the mix. And I think the rest of the fan base will see that when you've got a stadium that is going to be have all of what the new ones do, the ease of getting to it, and the fact that if it's not going to be more costly over time, you're going to get more out of the gate. And remember, we did this for the when Colts moved from Baltimore to Indianapolis, and Lucas Oil Stadium is a model for how you do it with an enterprising entity and an enterprising state.
Is that going to happen? Are you guys going to have Mayflower vans going out of Chicago in the dark of night to Northwest Indiana? Are you going to do to us what Baltimore did to you? Is that no?
No, I don't think so, because here it's been a 3-year lead up where they've been trying to work something out with a stubborn governor, state government, and the city. And I think it's a classic case where they were willing to call the bluff, and we're here, and now there's a good bit of education of what it would be like doing business with people that are not like the federal government or California.
And you think this is a genuine play, that they're not just using Indiana to leverage more from the state of Illinois?
Hey, I know that once this gets close or closer, you can expect some antics out of the state government and city of Chicago, but it's crossed into where there's more than just trying to use it as a bargaining chip. And we'll see. All I can tell you is we'll be fleet-footed. It'll be a much better value for the fans and the franchise in terms of what we'll be able to do to have them get a top-notch stadium. Remember, our credit rating is AAA. Mm-hmm. You better look in to see what Illinois is. And they've already said, the Bears will have to do most of the heavy lifting when Pritzker did start to speak up a little bit now that it's moved into a different dynamic. All of that plays into it, and there is some urgency because this involves their current setup at Soldiers Field that reaches a point where they got to have something done to make a smooth transition. We're just going to do everything we can to make it easy coming to Indiana.
And your conversation with Kevin Warren and other Bears officials have been productive. You think they're operating on the level?
very productive. We think they're operating on the level. I've come from 37 years of running a business and getting into places where when you make big investments, you're sticking your neck out. You want to make sure it's not kind of built on euphoria and a shaky foundation. This is not that.
Everything's coming up Hoosier these days. Who knows? Interesting. All right. Indiana Governor Mike Braun, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Good to talk to you again.
Always enjoy it. Thank you.
Dan Proft, Chicago's Morning Answer.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Dan Proft here to tell you about an opportunity for you to promote your business and to make a difference this Christmas season. I'm talking about our Food for the Poor Business Benefactor Program. We've partnered with Food for the Poor to provide life-saving food and water for thousands of children, and